On today's episode of the Locked On NBA Draft with No Ceilings podcast, Maxwell Baumbach and I are diving into the 2026 NBA draft class in full force by sharing the first half of our lottery big boards. We're covering players ranked 8 to 14 today in part 1. Stay tuned.
You are Locked On NBA Draft with No Ceilings, your daily podcast on the future stars of the NBA, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making the Locked On NBA Draft with No Ceilings podcast your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Nathan Grubel, current No Ceilings contributor, scouting consultant, evaluator of prospects for the last 14 years. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network and are available wherever you get your podcasts as well as on YouTube. Please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Joining me this week is my co-host, lead columnist, creator of the No Stone Unturned series for No Ceilings, Maxwell Baumbach. Maxwell, I'm going to have to change up that intro at some point because the prospect overview, listen, we're back in full force, baby.
Oh, yeah?
This is it. This is the start of draft season.
It's prospect overview time starting next week. But hey, let's not sleep on No Stone Unturned because the top 3 rookies in Dean Oliver's new plus-minus system, all former No Stone Unturned prospects. It's a good day to be Maxwell. The sample size is plenty big at 2 or 3 games. We can stop it right there. This is not a small sample. 2 and 3 games is a lot. It's time for a victory lap. I've seen enough.
It's the best day to be Maxwell, but it's still a good day to be us, though, because those guys, as you mentioned, we talked about them on our last episode when we covered our all rookie and rookie of the year predictions for Locked On NBA Draft with No Ceilings. Please make sure to go back and listen to that episode if you didn't. But on today's episode, Max and I are going to begin previewing the 2026 NBA Draft class. We're going to be sharing our players ranked 8 through 14 on our preseason big boards. We'll hit 8 and 9, 10 and 11, and then 12 to 14. Before we get started, I do want to shout out the other members of the Locked On NBA Draft with No Ceilings team. Both Tyler Rucker and Tyler Metcalf just released an episode covering all the weekend's exhibition games that happened. The likes of Darren Peterson, AJ DeBanza taking the floor. Well, Corey Tulaba and Albert Gim covered Florida's Thomas Howe, someone who Maxwell and I are actually discussing today on our show. Both of those episodes are available to watch and listen to wherever you get your podcast. All right, Maxwell. Everybody loves big boards. They love mock drafts more than big boards, but the way you get to the mock draft is actually by evaluating these guys, ranking them out, and then ultimately deciding between, whose skill sets, whose upsides, whose developmental tracks are more valuable in your eyes. This is a very individual exercise. Everyone's big board is going to be different. It may be comprised of some of the same names, but I can almost guarantee how a person arrived at the conclusions that they did is likely almost entirely different than the last person who you could have spoken with about their rankings. So that's why this is such a fun exercise. We're going to give you different opinions. Maxwell and I's big boards are going to be completely different than what you'd find from the Tylers, than what you'd find from Corey and Albert. And that's what makes this podcast feed so fun this year, is that everyone listening, you're not just getting one perspective and one big board and one mock draft. You're going to get like 6 of them. So you're going to get plenty of insight and analysis on who the top prospects are in the 2026 NBA draft. We'll save the big boys for part 2 of this series, but let's still talk about some awesome lottery guys, Maxwell. I actually want to hear from you first. Who are your 8th and 9th ranked prospects in your big board? Why don't you give us a little bit of overview about who you've got ranked in those spots?
For sure. And I do want to just double down on that caveat, like you mentioned. These are our individual big boards. This is not the No Ceilings consensus board. This is just our individual boards. I feel like I used the first board of the year to get a little bit cute with it, throw some darts that I feel really good about, put my foot down on a couple guys. But generally, I'd say I almost take it a little bit safer in some senses. Like there's some guys where I really want to see the production first, so I just don't rank them as high.
Sure.
Or I take guys that I feel are a little bit more reliable. But I do want to get spicy with number 8, who I believe is the biggest false ceiling prospect in this draft. The number 8 prospect on my board, 6'4" Iowa guard, Bennett Stirtz. Bennett Stirtz is an unbelievable player. He was one of the most efficient players in college basketball this past season, despite taking on a massive usage role. He made 67.2% of his half-court rim attempts, made nearly 40% of his threes in the half-court. Unbelievable assist-to-turnover ratio. Still managed to have a steal rate near around 3. Bennett Stirtz fits an archetype that we were talking about. I did a lot of data work this past week. One thing you see a lot of nowadays is what I call the caretaker guard who shoots and gets steals. It's very catchy. I need a much shorter name for that. But guys like Miles McBride, right? Like this is an archetype that we see find success over and over again. Ty Jerome is another. I think Bennett Stirtz is at least that. But I think the fact that he took on such a huge creation burden for Drake last season, played all but 2 minutes, played some really good games against high major competition. I get it. He's older. I think he's more athletic than people realize. If you look at his dunk numbers, they actually were quite good for a guard. I think he is just an unbelievable, well-rounded point guard who's really good both on and off the ball, and he's at number 8 for me.
Bennett Stirtz is very interesting. I'm a little bit more skeptical than you are in terms of him going up to the high major level. I want to see him do it for a considerable stretch in the Big Ten before I'm getting really crazy with where I'm slotting him on the board. I do definitely think he's a first round guard prospect. I probably would have him closer to the lottery than like the back end of the first. I'm still trying to figure out where I'm slotting him on my board. He's not in my lottery, but I know you're very high on him. I know Corey's very high on him. He has a very solid prospect case as a guard. If a lot of the rim numbers translate, you talked about the athleticism, if he can hold up defensively, because he does have a lot of those passing chops. He's very cerebral. He's smart. He takes care of the ball, and he's a 6'4" guard. You want to see that out of a backcourt mate when they're translating to the NBA level. So I do think that Bennett Stirtz has a good prospect case. Who do you have at number 9?
Number 9 is a guy I feel quite a bit less passionate about. It's actually Tunde Yesufu from Baylor, who this is one where it's like, this is me trusting the people that I trust. When I'm watching the Yesufu Tunde tape, I'm not like totally blown away. I'm sorry, Tunde Yesufu. I had that backwards there. I'm not totally blown away when I watch the film with him. But he's an absolute physical force. He's 6'5". He's already 215 pounds. He's built like a grown man. Really gets low on his drives, like when he attacks closeouts, holds that line well because he's so strong, really implements his will on the defensive end. I'm just not sold on the skill. It's 6'5". I don't love the shot. I don't love the decision making. I was watching some of his EYBL stuff today, the Hoop Summit stuff today, and it just feels like there's times where he gets like tunnel vision and things like that. But everyone I talk to that's seen him in practice says he's always one of the most vocal guys in the gym. He's always totally dominant. I want to buy the idea. I'm not like totally sold, but I've talked to enough people that are telling me he's the real deal that this is where I feel comfortable placing him for now.
I agree with you 1000% that you're buying an idea more so than a polished prospect at this point of the process. Now, I actually do have Tunde Yesufu higher on my personal board. I'm going to be talking about him in our next edition of the podcast, but I do completely understand the skepticism. I think where I probably would fall back on is he does have legitimate size at 6'5". He is a brick house. He knows how to utilize his physicality when he gets downhill, can bump off guys. And then the jump shooting ability, the pull-up shooting ability. I mean, he was getting those comparisons all week at Nike Hoop Summit. He really does look like some sort of clone of Anthony Edwards. I'm not calling him Anthony Edwards. I do think there is a skill gap between those two players. I know Ant had a lot of different drives and passing situations where he's a little bit careless with the ball at Georgia in college, and he certainly had some improvement areas in that regard. But I think from what I saw from Ant as a freshman as to what we're coming into seeing Tunde now, I think there is a gap between those two guys. So Yesufu has some work to do in that regard, but I think from a talent and a pure athleticism perspective, I'm really trying to buy in to what he's doing.
My 8-9, yeah.
My 8th ranked prospect, I'm coming out of the gate swinging like you, Maxwell. We talked about, planting our flag and taking stances. I've got Christian Anderson in number 8. Sophomore guard, Texas Tech, 6'3", 178 pounds. Last year as a freshman, almost 11 points per game, 43% from the field, 38% from 3 on 10.5 3-point attempts per 100 possessions, a 2.3 steal rate, 84th percentile per synergy in pick and rolls, including passes, 93rd percentile in pick and roll scoring. He was 40.5% on all of his jump shots, 39.7% on catch and shoot threes, 41.2% on all of his jump shots off the dribble, and he was 59% at the rim. Why I'm buying in on Christian Anderson so high? I think he has legitimate 3-level ability as a guard. I know there's some rim pressure questions in terms of what his role looked like last year, but in prior levels of competition, at EYBL, in international competition, he's finished much better at the rim. He really took over as a pick and roll playmaker for Germany this past summer at the FIBA U19s. He really looked great on the defensive end of the floor, getting through screens, navigating different coverages, staying close to his man, staying on their hip, using his hands to poke the ball free. I just think Christian Anderson has one of the most complete guard cases that you can make in this upcoming draft class. I'm buying the skill, I'm buying the priors, and I'm buying that this year for Texas Tech, he's going to get the on-ball shine that he deserves as their primary creator, their primary point guard. I think he's going to take over that role and really run away with it. And if he leads that Texas Tech team on as deep of a run as they went last year, finishing in the Elite Eight, looking great doing it, I just think when we're talking about guys who work in the NBA, they're not only able to show what they can on the ball and make plays for others, but they're able to also work off of others and play without the ball. And that's really what stood out to me with Christian last year is, again, he wasn't that on-ball, pick and roll, consistent type of guard for Texas Tech. That wasn't what he was asked to do. But at the same time, he was everywhere he needed to be for that team offensively. He relocated without the basketball. He set himself up for good looks. He didn't take bad shots. He wasn't a high mistake player. He was a very low turnover guy. And those types of guards just work. But at the end of the day, if Christian Anderson reaches his ceiling, which I think he's going to, I just think he's a special, special player. And it's more so just a natural belief that I have in Anderson that's carrying weight for me right now, why I have him ranked at number 8 on my board.
Mm-hmm. I think that's reasonable. I'm bold with Christian Anderson. You know how I feel about guards that are, not 6'6", generally speaking. I still have him as a top 60 guy, which for me is bold.
That is bold for you.
This type of player. I think Christian Anderson rocks. Like we talked about him during the FIBA play. I think he can really shoot. I think he can really pass. To me, he's like one of those guys where the college money is always going to be outrageous because he is so good that I think the stay or go choice with him could potentially be very interesting. But yeah, outstanding buzz out of the scrimmages already. He was great playing for Germany over the summer. He's a really good player.
We're going to take a very quick break. When we come back, I'll get into my 9th ranked prospect, and then Maxwell and I will hit on players 10 to 11 on our 2026 NBA draft preseason big board. Stay tuned. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of a game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Basketball season's officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache. Between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before your checkout, it's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. That's where Game Time comes in, the app that gives the fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring NBA tickets fast and easy and stress-free. Recently used Game Time to grab seats for the upcoming 76ers versus Pistons matchup, and it couldn't have been simpler. I had great seats in minutes. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Thank you for making the Locked On NBA Draft Podcast with no ceilings your first listen of the day. All right, Maxwell, I will get into my 9th ranked prospect on my board very quickly. Mm-hmm. It's another guard. We're talking a lot of guards today. We're going to be talking a lot of guards in this draft in general.
We like the guards this year, yeah.
I feel like right now, that's where a lot of the value is in this class. And LeBaron Philon, to me, fits that bill. 6'4", 185-pound guard. Last year as a freshman, he was almost 11 points per game, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 45% from the field, 2.9 steal rate, 8.4 BPM. He was 82nd percentile in pick and rolls, including passes, 34% on his dribble jumpers, and he was 53.9% at the rim. Listen, a lot of those numbers don't necessarily sound sexy to evaluators. Phylon's one of those guys you really have to dig into the tape to appreciate who he is as a prospect. Man, does he love the dirty work as a guard. He will fight for all those loose balls. He will fight for offensive rebounds. He doesn't mind mixing it up down low with other people. He has quick hands. He utilizes that on the perimeter to force steals, create deflections. He is the type of guy who is a consistent ball of energy for your team. And that's why I really appreciate his style as a point guard, but he can play under control. When he gets into the paint, gets 2 feet into the paint, he can kick out, find that open shooter, find that cutting man. He's got a really nice floater game in the paint. He does have to finish at a higher rate at the basket. And then for me, it's not necessarily the pull-up three-point shot that's got to come around for him. I just want him to hit more of his catch and shoot threes. He was 31.5% on a reasonable volume on those shots last year for Alabama. And you did see him improve on that shot in particular as Alabama went deeper into their season. But for him to emerge as the type of prospect that I believe he's going to, given my ranking where I have him right now on my preseason big board, like I said, it's going to be better finishing at the rim on a higher number of attempts. It's going to be that consistent defensive, dirty work mentality. It's going to be that caretaker style you alluded to, right? That high playmaker, but also low turnover kind of role. And he has to improve as a shooter. But if he can do those things, I buy the speed, the quickness, the energy, the athleticism. He's the type of guard that I personally love to buy into at this point of the draft. What do you think about Phylon?
I'm lockstep with you. I've him at 12. I'll set next my number 12 guy off the board, but I could not agree with your evaluation anymore. I think the upside is you get this switchblade guard who does a little bit of everything. Downside is he might be a guy that just does not have an efficient level that he scores at in the half court. But I'm with you. I really buy him. I buy the work ethic, the attitude, the demeanor, the it factor with him on top of the favorable data as far as his playmaking and his defense.
I have some of those very same concerns with my number 10 prospect, who's Michael Brown, going to Louisville this year, freshman guard. I had him higher on my board a few weeks ago, but I really tried to dig back into more of the tape. I saw some of what Louisville was doing in early exhibition play. I wasn't completely in love with what I saw. Now, granted, we're not even in the regular season of college basketball yet. There's a lot of games to be played. He's a 6'5" guard. He's very quick. He's got solid length. He knows how to utilize that length on defense on the perimeter. He can get into tight spaces as a ball handler. He's excellent pull-up shooter, someone who has real gravity outside on the perimeter, taking jump shots. He was the number 7 player in the class of 2025. He won golds in back-to-back FIBA events in the U19 World Cup this past summer, the U18 AmeriCup last summer. And in the U19s, it was a 15 points per game scorer, 6.1 assists, 47% from the field, 45.5 from 3 and 82 from the line. This guy can shoot the absolute lights out, but from when he gets too deep into the paint, Maxwell, I just don't have a lot of faith right now that there's going to be good that comes from it, be it from a scoring perspective or from a pass out perspective. I think a lot of what he does as a pick and roll playmaker is more so around the free throw line area. He can change gears a little bit there, but when he gets too deep into the paint, I think defenses right now are just able to key in on the fact that he's not a threat to score from that area right now, and they can play some of those passing lanes and take away some of those kick out reads for him. So I really need to see him improve as a rim scorer. I still want to see him get better even away from the ball defensively on the perimeter. There's just a few areas where I want to see some improvements from. But listen, he has incredible talent as a guard. And within a month of this season, he could make me look really silly for having him at 10. And then before I get your thoughts on Brown, I'll hit number 11 for me as well. Yep. Jayden Quaintance heading to Kentucky, the center, 6'10" center. Very, very, very sturdy down low. Like, I use 3 varies for a reason. Like, this guy does not get bullied defensively down low. He's probably the most well-equipped defensive big man that we have in this entire draft. He can block shots. He can create deflections. He can legitimately deter drivers down low. I just want to see him do anything offensively other than dunk the basketball. I do think we've heard some other people on our feed talk about how there's some handoff potential with him away from the basket, utilizing him as a short roll kind of passer. But He has no semblance of a jumper right now. He doesn't have anything going for him from the free throw line to lead me to believe that there's anything cooking away from the basket. He is a 5-foot and in score exclusively. I want to see a little more something before I get tremendously excited about where he could end up like top 5 on some people's preseason boards.
Yeah, I'm actually swinging on him and Michael, so I'll kind of save more of my thoughts on them for next week. So I'm quite a bit higher there, guys. I'm okay rolling the dice on going out on a limb on a little bit. I don't think you're out of line with those hesitations. The ones I share are very similar, especially with Quaintance. I will go into my number 10, who is Thomas Hogg out of Florida. I think he's a really interesting wing at about 6'9". He moves really well. I think defensively, he's got a lot of versatility to him. I think there's just a number of ways that he can impact the game. Offensively, I really liked the progression that we saw in his jump shot this past year. I thought he always shot it pretty well pre-college, but then was disastrous from 3 as a freshman. Last year, 34% from 3 on good volume, made almost 80% of his free throws. But what I love about Hawk in general is how well he plays downhill when he is run off the line. I think he's a really sharp connective passer, had an assist rate over 14, but he is just a hard-nosed dude. Had an offensive rebound rate over 10 despite being on the perimeter quite a bit. Good rebounder on defense as well. And a guy who draws a ton of fouls, a .649 free throw rate. If this guy's got an open jumper, he's going to knock it down. Otherwise, he's going to attack. When he attacks, he can finish. He can draw contact. He can make good decisions. And defensively, he just knows where to be. He's always all over the floor. He's in the right spots at the right time. I think he's just a big guy who moves well and knows how to play basketball, and I love that at 10. Any thoughts on Hogg real quick before I get to 11 real quick?
I do have Hogg in my lottery. I have him at 14, and I'm very excited for the type of jump he can make. He's one of these guys he's a junior coming back. I think he's a little more theoretical than some may want to give him credit for, but at the same time, given what he showed for Florida in that tournament run, I'm buying into the jump shot. If he is a legitimate shooter, his stock is going to soar even past where you have him right now, where I have him right now on our preseason big boards. I agree. He's a smart guy. He has some passing potential. He's good on the glass. He can score in the interior. I agree. Just these forwards who have such utility to their games, you cannot underrate those guys enough. Like, these are legitimate prospects that the NBA is looking for. Any sort of front court depth from those versatile 3, 4, can even play some small ball 5 potentially if their bodies fill out the way you want them to. You cannot have too many of those guys on your roster. So I think Hogg's a great call for you to have in the lottery.
Yeah, well, and if you're a little concerned about guys being theoretical, I don't know how you feel about my guy Dame Sarr here at 11. Look, the defense is stellar. He's 6'8". He's going to be a freshman at Duke. He is all over the floor on that side of the ball. Super versatile player. Offensively, I think he knows how to play. I like that he takes the shots when they're available. Always just been wildly inconsistent from behind the arc and at the free throw line too. So the shooting priors can be a little tough to stomach. I get that if people see that and that gives them some real pause. Ultimately, I'm just looking at a guy that's like 6'8", that I trust to make decisions, that's got some ball skills to him, and I know he's up to the bargain on defense. Yep. Maybe the offense isn't all there this year. Maybe it takes him a little bit of time, but long run, he's a guy that I'm in on, and I'm really excited to see what he does for the Blue Devils.
100%. I like Dame Sarr as a prospect. I think my main questions for him, and we've talked about it a little bit off air, is he feels very Isak Bonga to me. And I actually don't think that's a bad thing. I think Bonga's actually should be given a lot more credit about how he's developed overseas and the type of player he could be if he comes back to the NBA. It's just a matter of, do NBA teams know how to utilize that kind of guy when they're going to be getting Sarr, for as young as he is? Will they be able to get the most out of him? I think that's my biggest question for me. But if he does enough to shut up any of those questions with Duke, which I think is firmly on the table, I don't dislike the ranking at all. I absolutely think he's in play to be a lottery level prospect. So I like that you went there with Sarr. When we come back to the Locked On NBA Draft with No Ceilings podcast, we'll wrap up the show. We'll go through our 12th through 14th ranked prospects on our preseason draft big boards. Stay tuned. If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SAS promised to make work easier. But now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS. That's sad. Software is a disservice. That's why you need Rippling. Rippling is the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance, all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. Whether you want to run your entire HR, IT, and finance operations as one or just fill in the gaps in your software stack, Rippling can do it all. And right now you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/LockedOnNBA. Learn more at rippling.com/LockedOnNBA. That's rippling.com/LockedOnNBA for 6 months free. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth. Whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments, when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I, for one, am trying to manage multiple long-term goals like paying off my car, making a dent in my mortgage, and saving up for my wife and I's first dog, as well as a few other improvements around the house. With Monarch Money, my wife and I can establish a budget and easily strategize around making sure our short-term bills are taken care of without sacrificing our long-term financial goals. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNBA. All right, welcome back to the Locked On NBA Draft with No Ceilings podcast, Maxwell. We're going speed round. Let's wrap up the show by giving our 12th through 14th ranked prospects in our preseason 2026 NBA Draft big boards to the audience. Kick us off 12 through 14. Let's do it.
Cool. So 12 was LeBaron Philon, who we already touched on. Number 13, I've got Adrian Woolley out of Louisville, our next Louisville guard on here. I wrote a piece on Adrian Woolley today. So go to NoCeilingsNBA.com. Give that the full read. That's the full rundown of Adrian Woolley. The bottom line is I think he's one of the most well-equipped, well-rounded guards in the country at 6'4" with a good frame, brings versatility on both ends. And I'll give a little spiel on my number 14, who is going to be Caleb Wilson at North Carolina. Look, we've seen Jarris Walker really take a step forward this year. And I think the idea with Caleb Wilson is very similar. This is a big, strong dude with real athleticism at his disposal, who also has a little bit of skill. He can shoot free throws. Okay. He can take an open shot. Is it where you want it to be? No. But is he going to really rebound? Is he going to absolutely lock people down? Is he going to make a ton of plays on defense? And does he know how to play basketball? Yes. Everything else is there. And this is the kind of guy where, with the athletic traits, the type of body that he's got, I think the shot's just going to come a little bit later for him. And I'm totally fine betting on everything else and being patient and waiting for that to come along, because I think the physicality, the IQ, everything else that I want is there with Caleb Wilson. I think he's going to produce, and I think you just wait on the shot.
Oh, we're going to talk about Caleb Wilson in our next podcast. Spoiler alert.
Okay, there we go.
I'm inside my top 5. I am completely bought in. If I see that dude hit enough jumpers in North Carolina, like I'll be as all the way in as I can possibly be. Of course, without him touching that big three. I think that big three we're going to talk about next time. Sure. Pretty unimpeachable, but yeah, I'm very much bought into Caleb Wilson. And then Adrian Woolley, as Maxwell said, please go to NoCeilingsNBA.com. He just wrote a full-length piece about Adrian Woolley. Please do yourself a favor. Go read. You'll become smarter. You'll know exactly who we're talking about when we refer to Adrian Woolley this year, Louisville guard. My 12 through 14, we already touched on how he's my 14th ranked prospect. My number 12 ranked prospect is Braylon Mullins, heading to UConn. He is out for the first 6 weeks of the season with an ankle injury, but 6'6", 196-pound wing, 2025 McDonald's All-American. He was Indiana's Mr. Basketball and the Gatorade Player of the Year, an Indiana consensus 5-star prospect. In his senior season in high school at Greenfield Central, averaged 32.9 points per game, 7.2 rebounds, 4.2 assists, 3.7 steals. And he shot over 47% from three-point range. That man was cooking last year in high school. And I am excited to see how much he can cook with UConn this year. I think one of the things that we didn't see enough from UConn last year outside of Liam McNeely was consistent spot up 3-point shooting. And not only can Mullins hit shots on spot ups, he can get shots off the move. He can relocate. He can hit threes off the dribble. This man is a tough shot taker and a tough shot maker. He's incredibly competitive. He's tough as nails. You're going to see some of that on the defensive side of the ball too. This guy screams Dan Hurley like almost no other prospect has who's come through the door for him yet to this point. I can't wait to see him at UConn. And then 13, I'm taking another swing. I got Isaiah Evans at Duke.
Ooh, okay.
You look at the statistical profile for Evans, and he's not necessarily jumping out to you in categories other than the raw shooting ability as someone who's ready for the NBA. But he's listed at 6'6", 180 pounds. I've already seen him in some preseason exhibition action, Maxwell. He looks good. He looks confident. He's taking guys off the dribble. That he had a play against Tennessee in their most recent exhibition where he went to freaking throw down a tomahawk at someone. I'm like, that's the type of Isaiah Evans that I want to see. If this guy gets more confident on the ball, if he can figure out how to make some reads and pick and roll, which by the way, it was very, very, very small sample size in pick and roll last year for Duke, but he did rate out very well in those play types. And then this guy is a lights out shooter. When I'm talking about shooters on shooters in college basketball, Isaiah Evans has to be the first name that I'm bringing to the table, at least right now. This guy is a bona fide bucket. I think he's got the tools to take steps defensively. I think he is competitive on that side of the ball. And again, if we're going to start to see him put together some on-ball offensive capability, he's got wing size. He's bringing a very safe skill set to the table as far as his shot's concerned. You can find ways as an NBA team to utilize him early in his career, get him on the floor, and get points for him within your system. I think a team's going to fall very much in love with Isaiah Evans during this pre-draft process. I don't even know where he could end up going on draft night. You could tell me he goes higher than this. It wouldn't shock me. If some of the stuff I'm talking about doesn't fully come around for him, he could end up going lower. He could be like a late first round guy. He could end up anywhere right now in the first round, but I'm going to take the swing and have him a little bit higher on my board to start if I have to correct a little bit later down the line. Willing to do that, but I believe in Isaiah Evans' prospect.
Yeah, I think that's totally reasonable. Evans is one of those guys where he scares me because, like you said, outside of the shot, a lot of work to do, kind of on the skinny side.
He's not a Maxwell Baumbach kind of prospect outside of the shot.
No, I like my guys that just shoot. I like him to be bulky, and that's where I'm a little bit worried with him. But I do think like the raw baseline talent is there, and I think he might have a little bit more feel than we've gotten to see. Like you mentioned, the pick and roll stuff. I also thought his like defense was okay down the stretch last year. Like I don't think he's a horrible defender by any means. So I think there's an absolute real path for anyone that shoots that high of a percentage from three on such ridiculous volume.
100%. That's going to do it for this episode of the Locked On NBA Draft with No Stones podcast. Thank you in general for making Locked On your first listen every day. For your second listen, go find Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Josh Lloyd hosts the #1 fantasy basketball podcast, giving you daily tips and helping you win your league, all while making you a smarter NBA fan. Find Locked On Fantasy Basketball on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, thank you all for listening to the show. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week.